continue our series how to make everything. Today we're going to try fruit roll-ups. Right, so before we get started on our recipe, let's open this one up and have a look what we've got. Oh, it's green. Look at that. So you can see that is a very bright green color. Oh, there's a bit of blue in there as well. Let's give it a little try and see what it's like. Okay, wow. Yeah, it's quite tangy, chewy. It's very sour. I think it's got a lot of citric acid in it. Right, so the first thing we're gonna need is some pears. We've got to peel and cut these. If we look at the ingredients, it says made from pear juice concentrate. That being said, we're gonna use fresh pears. So let's get the skins off of our pears here. And then we can start cutting them up. We need to get these to soften, so we're just going to heat them up in a pan until they can run a fork through them without any resistance. Just add some water on top of that. While we're just softening these up, let's quickly add a little bit of our white sugar over the top of that, just to add some sweetness. We've got our blender set up. Let's get our pear that's been softened into that carefully. So just giving an initial blend in there, and we can see it's looking really good. Got some passion fruit flavor. We'll add a drop of that in, very small amount. Also add some raspberry flavor. Nice balance. Should be good. Finally, we'll add some orange flavor, zesty orange flavor. Just a drop. Perfect. So we're gonna add some corn syrup, just like they have in the recipe. So a good amount. 2 tablespoons of pectin. This will help it bring it together. They use this for things like jellies and jams. So we'll pop 2 tablespoons in. There's 1, there's 2. Of course, to match the sourness, we'll add some citric acid. So we'll get a good amount of that in there. Right, so we don't have any dextrose. We've got maltodextrin, so we'll get a decent amount of that in there too. And finally, let's add some color to match our fruit roll-up color. We can add some more later if we need. Pop that on. Whoa, look at that. We've got a blended fruit roll-up here. You can see it's looking really good. Let's pass it through a strainer before we just boil it again. And then we're just gonna simmer it for a few minutes to solidify it a little bit more before we put it into the oven. Our mixture is just about finished cooking out. Let's get it onto our parchment paper so we can spread it across our surface here. All right, so we can see it's holding its shape, which is exactly what we want. And now we just need to spread it thin enough. Basically, we are essentially making the fruit leather here that will roll up. So we need to figure that out. So just clean up the edges here. I think we're just about there. I'm not gonna be able to get that any more flat. So that being said, now we've got to put this in the oven for around 3 to 4 hours to fully dehydrate. I've got to put it in as low as possible. So we're gonna put this in at 170 Fahrenheit, which is just underneath gas mark 1. So let's do that now and we'll come back in a few hours and see how it turns out. I've just got this out the oven and I have to say, I am impressed by the results. Let's peel it up off of our tray here and see what we're looking like. Oh, that has worked so well. Look at that. There is our fruit roll-up. What we need to do, put this to the side. What we need to do now is cut this up, obviously, into our little squares, and then we can roll it into our fruit roll-up. So let's just use a pair of scissors here, and we'll cut this like so into our little shapes. So we've got a little fruit roll-up square here. Let's now roll it up since it's in the name. So we need to sort of press it together quite well. Let's see how well this works. Look at that. That is our homemade fruit roll-up. Right, so there's the original fruit roll-up and there's our homemade one. I've got to say, this looks really good. Now, obviously it doesn't look exactly the same, but that smells pretty close. Let's give ours a try and see how we compare to the original one. So we can see we can give it an unwrap. Look at that, just like the original. That is so cool. So let's try a homemade fruit roll-up in 3, 2, 1. Well, that is really good. The flavor is very close. So as far as how close this is to the fruit roll-up, I do think we need to work on the recipe, but that is not bad. Comment what we should try next. Very cool. Yum, yum.